Hello, and welcome to Feats and Fables. We have a different show for you tonight. There's several of us that aren't feeling quite all right at the moment. So instead of playing a game tonight, we're going to have a panel discussion about the show, about us. It's Ask Us Anything Hour here on Feats and Fables. So, yes. So if you have questions, please put them in chat. We'll be watching it very carefully. And I think to start us off, Andrew was going to Larry King us.
That sounds so wrong when you say it that way.
Perhaps we should say, though, that we are fine.
Yes.
We are pandemic fine.
We are pandemic fine.
Yes. And actually, I think we have to start with a dance. Because Kurgosh,
we do. For 4 months, we have danced the dance for Kurgosh.
Can we play the music? Is that are we just dancing to nothing?
No, the music is coming out on chat on Twitch.
Fake it, Andrew.
But it's not coming to you.
I'm so out of sync.
Everybody but you hears it, Andrew.
I don't.
Everyone. That's exactly what my psychiatrist said.
Kurgosh.
I don't know what I'm doing, but it's definitely a dance.
Coda, not knowing what you are doing.
There's no music. That's the worst part about this.
Kurgosh.
I give up.
The music was in our hearts the whole time.
I mean, come on.
Kurgosh, nothing else. Thank you for sticking with us. It's been a ride.
This has been great.
It has been great. We have all learned so much about computering.
Right.
Like, holy wow, so much about computering. Well, we've tried.
So thanks for joining us tonight. We really, I think, we've always wanted to do this sort of panel style session where we just, throw out some questions. I'll be sort of leading out some questions, prying a little bit into our various players, the characters they play, some of the other games they play, those kinds of things. But we also really welcome your questions. So please type them in the chat. We'll just, dive in, grab them every so often. We'll just keep an eye out there. But I think maybe this is sort of a good moment for everyone to sort of remind everyone else, because sometimes maybe our verisimilitude is so great that we should remind people who we are and what role we play in this particular game. I'm Andrew. I'm currently playing the role of Malagar, the Drow cleric, who just joined this illustrious squad. Mike?
Hi, Andrew. So I'm Coda, also known as Mike. Hey, everybody. And I'm currently playing the Lizard Folk Barbarian, something that we have toned down a little bit. It's a solid cross-class, Ron. Stop looking at me like that. But also, introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Ron. I play Victor, who somehow ended up the head of our squad.
There's no mystery to it.
Oh my gosh, we definitely got to talk about how that happened tonight.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I'm the one playing a military character, since I read the brief page put out before the campaign.
I'm a military character.
That's
by
true.
read means what? 30 pages?
By military character, you mean powerful weapon used by the military?
Exactly.
Wildfire is the second most military, which is saying something. So please introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Joe Streaky. I represent Wildfire in this crazy game.
Who will then obviously pass it to Ben.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Oh,
Ben,
what? Me? What do I even talk about?
Who you are and what character you play.
Cool. I'm Ben Heisler. I am currently playing Belwyn, the Dwarven Princess Paladin. and I previously played Silvio, the Satyr College of Eloquence Bard.
And I'm Paige. I play everyone else.
She is reality.
People are telling us that we are echoey, so maybe we should swap back to your mic.
All right. What about now? Funk Show Brother.
Come on, chat. Help us out.
Okay. Brian says it better. So my name is Paige. I play everybody else. I created the Aglarond briefing, 30 pages worth, based largely upon past materials, with a good dose of 4E nostalgia, because we played a lot of Aglarond adventures in 4E, and that's what I do on this ship.
That's probably a pretty good thing to dive into a little more. You know, you talk about 4E nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something specifically from 4E that you're pulling from, or just how they crafted that world? You know, what was it that really motivated you about this particular setting?
Well, let's just set the stage that mechanically, I love 4E. I enjoyed it start to finish. I thought it was a great game and had a lot of fun playing it.
Paige, I gotta tell you, I think 4E probably has my favorite rendition of Bard.
4E definitely has my favorite rendition of Noel. And I mean, I could go on 4E all day long, but yes.
I'm glad that we're talking about the most important parts of the system, how well it portrays Knowles.
And Bards.
And Bards. Or even
The
better,
5th edition Bard is so good.
Yeah. 5th edition Bards are great. 4th edition Bards also fire hot. Kurgosh, I did not know there was a theme song for you, but now I must hear.
No, Paige, there's a theme song for you, I think is what he's asking.
Paige Lightman.
Oh, I was not aware.
We'll have to explore that later. If someone can pull that up somewhere. So Aglarond, I mean, you know, we talked about taking this from the podcast that we were to the stream that we are now. So why Aglarond, and you know, what was that moment really?
The living campaign for 4th edition was Living Forgotten Realms, and each geographic area of the world was mapped onto different parts of the Forgotten Realms, and Jauja was mapped onto Aglarond. So our local area was Aglarond. And so we played a bunch of Aglarond adventures, and we had fun storylines, and they were great. And so when given an option to write my own content and play a game set anywhere in the Forgotten Realms, Aglarond is a nice mix of not the Moon Sea and not the Sword Coast, plus not entirely based on a racist caricature of another culture, and not described at all in 5th edition. So this was my chance to really make it mine.
Like a blank slate for you to sort of recraft.
And we took advantage of that by immediately leaving it.
I mean, you'll be back.
It's
this magic item and just, you know, ride away into the sunset.
I mean, if you want to ride away into the sunset with this magic item, go right ahead. I'm sure nobody will care.
right. It's not like this magic item is the established magical protection of all of Aglarond.
So without giving away maybe too much about what we're about to experience, since, you know, the players are here essentially listening to your every word, but you know, as a blank slate, how did you, right? Mike is pretending to just sort of, you know, be hanging out casually. With a blank slate, how did you decide what you were going to put into it, essentially?
So, I've been playing D&D a very long time. So I remember Aglarond and the Forgotten Realms from 2nd edition.
Mm. Oh, wow.
So I went and got the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th editions of the Forgotten Realms and read what they all had to say about Aglarond. and then kept the things I like and punted the things I didn't.
What were the things that you didn't like?
So one systemic problem with Forgotten Realms is that it is written by Ed Greenwood, and Ed has characters he loves.
Uh-huh.
And they're more powerful than your PCs will ever be, and they never die, and all the cool stuff in the realms happens because of them. So, step A, murder all those characters. Dead. D-E-D, dead. It says in the briefing document, so hopefully you've all read it, or maybe not, I don't know, this might be news. In prior editions, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, a magical Mary Sue princess called the Symbol, who was like Miss the Goddess of Magic's like sister or third cousin or something like that. It's very complicated. Was in charge of it, and she was the end all be all place where power stopped in Aglarond.
Yeah.
She's dead. She's been dead a while. Everybody tried to raise her. Wishes were expended. She's happy where she is. She's not coming back.
So should the players be stumbling across more bodies, is what you're saying? Like, will there be more tombs that...
So not so much in Aglarond, because Aglarond was never a center of play like Waterdeep was, or Neverwinter, or Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
So there's not too many more bodies to step for, but if you'd like to visit the Tomb of the Symbol, it's there.
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome to go visit. And now Aglarond is ruled by the Symbark Council, which is made from local electors that represent their areas, and then they pick the wizards and other. The requirement for being on the Symbark Council is that you must be magically potent. So it's traditionally wizards and sorcerers and that kind of stuff, but they've allowed arcane clerics and even druids and other spellcasters, with the exception of warlocks, to be part of the Symbark Council as well.
So was there anything else that you nuked off of Aglarond?
Yes. So the founding origin of Aglarond is that the elves lived in Aglarond and they were having a very good time. And then the humans showed up in Aglarond and went all colonizer and kicked the elves' ass. Eventually, peace was made. And that, to me, sounds like bullshit. So, I'm reading Brian's question in chat. So I made it instead that the humans came to the shore as refugees, and the elves graciously and magnanimously decided to take them in, and together they built a blended society. So that's not just a where Ed's vision picks up and I start change. That is a fundamental change on the back end that I felt was very important.
Yeah, I mean, this is fundamentally kind of your fantasy society here.
Yeah.
Old Slow Tiger 90 asks, well, essentially he's asking why Forgotten Realms, and since he's such a big Greyhawk fan.
So I too am a big Greyhawk fan. I really like it. I have spent many hours playing a Greyhawk. Given the option with no other bit on my concerns, I might have put this in Greyhawk instead, because I feel like there's some great storylines there, and it's not as stunk up with these massively powerful NPCs as Forgotten Realms is. But 5th edition has very intentionally come down hard as saying Forgotten Realms is our standard venue.
Right.
And the reason why I want... we have the Circle of 8 in Greyhawk, yes, but they're sure they can be dealt with, and they're colorful. It's Mordenkainen et al. But in Forgotten Realms is the base setting for 5th edition, and all the books are set in Forgotten Realms, and everything is set.
All
in
that
Forgotten
DDAL content.
Yes, and I felt that by setting our game in Forgotten Realms, it would give many of our audience kind of some limited preconception and understanding of kind of what was going on in the world.
That's actually a really interesting one. The audience, I don't know if you have any other thoughts about that, but I actually don't know if other people in the group right now have spent much time. Like I've spent most of my time in Forgotten Realms myself.
Mhm.
I don't know, Ron or Ben, if you or anyone else have spent more
Y'all
time
played
in
Baldur's
other
Gate,
settings.
right? And
So,
Pool of Radiance and Azure Bonds and all that.
Paige, I have a confession to make.
Oh
boy.
my!
Uh,
I have not played Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale. I did play Neverwinter Nights and got really into that for a while.
Yeah,
But I feel like that's not a great demonstration of what Forgotten Realm has to offer.
it was. I mean, it was kind of very
I
bounded.
haven't played any of those games.
I will say it was my first introduction to the word Water Davian.
Right.
Yes. We can all roll our eyes at Papa Ed there too.
I can tell you though, like we didn't really vote on what setting we wanted to be in, mostly because it was kind of established that we would be in the primary setting because, for all the reasons Paige said, and that's the one we're all, I think, familiar with to one respect or another. But I think if
We
would
did
have
our
been
market
voting,
research.
exactly. But if I would have been voting, my vote would have been for Dark Sun
Oh,
because I freaking love that setting.
I really, really enjoy Dark Sun, and I would love to run some Dark Sun for y'all, with the understanding that Dark Sun is super grimdark.
mhm.
Yeah, it wasn't a good option for this game in general.
Yeah.
What do you love about Dark Sun so much, Joe?
It's a great setting, and like it is a game where struggle is built in, right? So you're desperately like, you don't have metal, so everyone's like just like struggling for every little bit of everything. It's great. It's great.
Everyone's a druid.
Everyone's a druid.
Wait, what?
I
I'm
have
not familiar with
extremely
that.
fond memories of playing a Thrycreen
Yeah.
and keeping track of how many points everyone had because Thrycreens are very concerned with who's on top.
Yep.
So I just had a piece of paper and I would give tick marks every time people did something cool, so I knew who the person I most respected was. It's a cool setting.
Yeah. So it's also got some great storylines as far as magic is generally illegal, and there are these ultra powerful sorcerer monarchs that use all the magic and destroy the land as they use magic, and the land's already pretty effed up already. So it's pretty
good.
cool. But it's
got a lot
grimdark.
going for
And
it.
when we were
Yes.
putting this together in the fall of 2020, we're like,
Right.
we want to be a little more noble bright than grimdark. We think that's a good idea right now.
Yeah, I
Well-
stand by that
Yes.
thought for
Yeah.
sure.
We're so soft.
I mean, really, the setting got decided for us, right? Because we started out playing Dragon Heist,
Mhm.
which was with Forgotten Realms, and then when we changed to this game, we wanted the characters that existed in. We wanted them to be in the same world, so that basically meant we had to stay in the realms.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't have Malagar if we had gone to Greyhawk or Dark Sun.
Greyhawk or
know.
Dark Sun or Spelljammer.
There's
Or-
always a Meligar.
Malagar does get around though.
That's true.
Or
In every
Deadlands.
sense of the word.
Deadlands.
Deadlands.
No,
Deadlands.
Deadlands. It's
I think-
on the list. We're gonna
There's
have
someone-
to redo the rules again, but then
This
it's
is
on
coming
the
off
list.
like an inside joke, but does someone want to explain just this word Deadlands to the general audience?
With more context than it's just a setting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Except for
Deadlands is a game that we all played together for quite a while. It is set in what's called the Weird West, which is the Wild West, but there are zombies and basically radioactive power sources that are powered instead of by science, but by the damned. And when you burn it, it screams like
It's like coal. It's like super coal, but it happens to be sort of mystical in nature.
Yeah. So, and zombies came back during Gettysburg.
Yeah, it was in the Battle of Gettysburg.
Yeah.
And, you can guess how that took the Civil War on a weird path, and it's just a crazy setting. There's mad scientists. There's basically warlocks they call hucksters. There's gunfights. There's all of that great stuff.
Yep.
Plus a ton of really just absolutely weird shit.
The thing is, like, before I would want to get real serious about Deadlands again, I really feel like the setting needs some upgrades, because I want to make sure that the setting is appropriately respectful of the real world peoples that are referenced in it.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah.
I think we were playing in the setting for a while though, and I think we really loved it, and we paused somewhere. So this is why we bring up the word Deadlands every so often, is because we want to go back in whatever state it's in.
Yeah, it was exciting. We had just brought Satan into Deadlands. It was crazy.
Right?
My character's still purple.
His character was potassium permanganate purple.
That was it was an exciting cliffhanger in which I believe it was Joe tried to cast a spell and drew like both of the aces, and Paige just kind of stopped.
Pause.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was totally Ben.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I gotta stop for tonight.
Yeah. We had only been playing for about an hour and a half, and Ben was like, their ass was on the line, and he was calling down a light spell, basically like a divine light or healing light-esque kind of spell. And
let
then
me just color that with I was a warlock and calling upon the powers of evil to make light. It was
yes,
fine.
yes. And we would never play it, Kurgosh, without cards and poker chips. Like, if it's not cards and poker chips, it's not Deadlands. That's it.
It was really, really thematic, and even if that double aces causes some sort of giant reboot, and we can somehow maybe take our characters back or something like that, I'd be all for that. So
You were saying that Roll20 has Deadlands?
I was just saying that Roll20 has all kinds of great tools for
Cards and
decks
chips.
and
Yeah.
chips and
I'm sure, yeah.
and stuff. So
Yep.
we could do it in a way where we could broadcast it and share with people once this campaign ends.
Okay.
So look for that. Demand it, dear audience, in the future.
We all have hats. We all have
hats.
our special
Yes.
Western hats that
The
we
hats
wear.
are
I don't know
very
how that's
important.
going to work with headphones.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly figure out how to put a hat on.
We have a new sub!
There's no music when we dance anyways. Oh, sorry. Headphones mean still dancing. Whiz on.
You whiz on!
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we did know that with Amazon Prime you get a free Twitch sub a month.
And we really appreciate it.
We definitely appreciate it, fella.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So that was one of our sweet settings that we may explore in this on this stream, and we hope you all are as excited about it as we are. But at a point to be determined in a far off and yet uncertain future.
It'll be interesting to see what game system it's based on when we play it.
Yeah, so the original rules are okay, but they're not exactly balanced.
Nope.
So I rebuilt it in Fate, and then I built it in Fate Accelerated, and decided I didn't like it. I like Fate better.
This is just the thing that Paige does, by the way, is just toss
Yes.
off giant mechanics documents, and I think Ben, you wrote a lot of this too, right?
Yes.
Like, just reskinning the entirety of Fate and squishing all of its crazy ass mechanics into a whole another system, which, it's just the thing you do on a few weekends, right?
I mean, I'm not going to say that I also had a hand in the Agorun document, but I totally had a hand in the Agorun document too.
I just like it's a scene from Firefly with River Tam in the Bible, And she's like, it's not right. It's incorrect. I'm going to fix it. And I just kind of get that kind of way sometimes. And then the 30 pages of text fall out of my head.
Yep.
And I like game mechanics. Like, I love messing with game mechanics. Maybe I'll skin it to 4th edition.
Right? There you go. And maybe someday we'll be able to convince whoever owns the IP for Deadlands to let you do it legally.
Like, it can't be that expensive. Like,
we can convince them with the Benjamins.
Maybe this will be our next collection effort to try and buy up that particular IP.
Oh man, if we bought the Deadlands IP, I would do things.
That can be our goal. Like, if we get 30 concurrent viewers, we'll just buy Deadlands.
Okay.
How many
concurrent viewers, and they're all giving us
They're all Jeff Bezos,
right? I was going to say Elon Musk.
Tiger 90 asks, "How many bits for the Deadlands? How many bits?"
Brian, would you like to see us run Deadlands? Do you think that would be fun?
We should do a poll.
Not just Brian. Anyone else who feels like they're interested can certainly chime in.
Yeah.
Again, Old Slow Tiger is just living vicariously through us in his role-playing dreams. I'm sure he would be along for the ride with wherever we go.
He did visit, and he wants to visit. Because didn't he did pop up at a session or two, if I remember correctly.
No, I used his brain for a couple of things.
Okay.
Surgically removing our viewers' brain feels like it's probably not going to be sustainable, Paige.
She needed it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I took large portions of particularly Dave Jimenez's brain.
Yeah.
And Tim Chandler, and I had a consult with Brian as well, I think.
I mean, this is, I think, a great insight into how you build things, right? It's a very collaborative, like, I really love how you reach out and work with other people, also work out with other people. And, I'd actually like to hear more about that. Like, tell us about your process, Paige. It could be for Aglaron. I mean, you told us some of the why. I'd love to hear some of the how for this and on other settings that you did.
So everybody's got a different learning style. Some people learn by hearing things. Some people learn by seeing things. Some people learn by writing things down. I learn by organizing data.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
professionally.
I mean, yes, actually. But I mean, that's how I read scientific papers.
Mm-hmm.
But I make a list and I kind of start building an outline, and then once I've got a logical structure to it, I understand it. I understand how everything hangs on the tree,
Mm-hmm.
And with Aglaron, it was kind of the same thing. It was like, oh, they need to know this before they start. Oh,
right.
They got to know that. Oh, what about that? They need to know that. Oh, but what about the? And then 30 pages later, I have a document. I mean,
you're just like word vomiting into this outline.
Yeah, and then a lot of scrubbing and polishing.
Yeah.
And there is no finer partner in the scrub and polish business than that guy right there. Hang on, where is he on Twitch for me? That guy right over there.
What? No.
On a similar note, I actually would love, I mean, since Ben, you've also authored a bunch of material as well as run, games as well. Can you sprinkle a little bit of wisdom on how you plan things? Because I've played in a lot of your games over these years. I'm kind of curious.
Sure. So it's interesting because my philosophy on running games and writing things has obviously significantly matured as I have gotten older and learned more about the universe and how people play. Growth is weird. Like, I wish I could say there's an easy process to it, but it's largely, how do you make it so that the characters have all manner of ways in which to do things where they still feel that they are right, even if it's not the way that you imagined it going. Or if it's not the way that will benefit the most number of people in society. But because world choices are fun to design.
Right.
That's what excites me the most. When it came to Aglarons, basically it was a lot of flexing my anthropology degree.
It was.
Like the original doc, it didn't have anything about food or drink or
music
or art or culture or like how the towns work together and things like that. The importance of Shantae and farming and what are the harvest festivals if there's a large section of people based around farming, because
Yeah.
that's an important thing for them.
Yeah.
So had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, it's not often you get to flex a college degree in pursuit of your game goals.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've gotten to use my anthropology degree a fair amount in designing games, because the more that you think about those things and add details, the more verisimilitude. There we go. Haha, words. Good thing I'm right.
So do you find yourself adding that kind of stuff for the modules you've written?
Yeah. So trying to add what is around and what people are doing and what events are that are not involved with the PCs. Is super interesting to me, and also making sure that the PCs, wherever they are touching upon the culture of the people that they're there with. So in the most recent piece that is...
I was going to brag on you, but go right ahead.
So in PRW, Dreams for Wizards 04, Uncertain Scrutiny, which is a level...
11 to 16?
Yeah, 11 to 16 adventure. One of the things is you have to get into a place, and the easiest way to get into that place is Fae is also well known for its winemaking in a very distinctly different way than Aglarond is.
Yeah.
And one of the ways is to get into that business and sneak your way forward.
So the Principality of Fae, which is one of our main antagonists in the show, has not been described in 5th edition materials, period.
Really?
Yeah. Not a bit. There's not been a Forgotten Realms book released that really mentioned Fae. The big setting book was Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and that was on the Sword Coast.
Okay, wait. I gotta fall as the Forgotten Realms newbie here.
Sure.
Like, even I know that Fae is kind of like one of the big bad players in the universe. How is that possible?
That has not been described in any 5th edition official material until that guy wrote Uncertain Scrutiny. So he basically had to build Fae from the ground up for 5th edition. Not all of it, obviously, because you only see what is in the mod, but there was a lot of thinking.
So what you're saying is that Ben is an upstanding pillar of the Thayan society.
I mean, oddly, yes.
So if we take out Ben...
He's the main driver between behind all Thayan evil.
That's what I'm saying. That pun comes up every time we can't.
Feats and Fables HR would like to take this opportunity to remind you that we cannot be held liable for puns experienced during this stream.
Sorry, folks.
Don't condone it, even a little bit.
No regrets.
All right, I want to shift the lens a little bit over to Victor, who is a really interesting character, I think. And you said, you were one of the few people who actually read the brief, the background, and Ron, you don't often run, but whenever you write things, I am always like, it's meaty. I really like it. Can you tell us about, what your thought process around building Victor as a character was?
I wanted Victor to be a character, since I read the brief, I knew that our characters were going to be foresters, right? Which is basically, the elite military forces of Aglarond, which basically makes us an adventuring party. So it's a great hook that Paige came up with. So I wanted to create
this time. I've tried that before in a game, and that's a story for another day. It still worked, but came out with wonderful, terrible. Well, go ahead.
So I wanted to create a character that had never really aspired to be part of the elite military or even really thought about it. Basically, Victor had joined the military just because that's what people in his family did and was putting in his time when he had this traumatic incident where in a fight he was almost killed.
Right.
And while he was convalescing, a passing healer basically made him whole because he was very damaged. But they did it the way with the gemstones in his face that basically disfigured him, but also gave him access to magical power. In Aglarond, many people have strong magical power, and Victor was never really one of them.
Right.
So he suddenly found himself with above average magical power and this mystery. So that's what prompted him to join the Foresters, and kind of explore that and explore his new strength as an Eldritch Knight, where before he was just kind of a guy that pokes people with spears and bows.
I think you mean litters the battleground with his bows.
Yeah, well, when Paige gave that Ilona's quiver out, I was like, I can carry 8 bows. I want to use 8 bows.
True facts.
I mean, I think that's all that's really interesting. I mean, you talked about, like the Victor sort of base trauma. And, was there somewhere that you drew that from? Like, where did that concept come from?
I kind of worked backwards. I wanted, I'm sure it came from someplace. I wanted his power to come from outside him.
Okay.
And I wanted not to have chosen it. I didn't want him to seem, I didn't want him to be like, the chosen one, or the hereditary inheritor of a great power or anything like that. So I like the idea of someone just kind of wandered by and stitched him up so powerfully that it actually increased his magic, and it became like a mystery and something he would follow, something he could tap into. And that's basically all I told Paige, and she's the one that's made up. She incorporated the Gale of Moor, which I had never even heard of before, and somehow
anywhere except in this game.
My crystals are resonating with this other sword that I happen to find, which is another thing. So, I mean, I didn't write the end of the mystery. I basically created a mystery, and I said, "Hey, Paige, I want to find out what happened." And so far, it's been. So I'm on the same journey as everyone else, trying to find out what's going on, and also just to kind of stay focused on the mission and stuff. With the characters. So
was there any other what's that?
It's been an interesting ride.
Yeah. And was there any other facet of Victor that you put some thought into?
I wanted to use both the sharpshooting feat and the great weapon master feat.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever Victor's doing, dude hits hard.
Because they're kind of definitive feats for 5th edition. You're playing a martial character, and I had made a character that had one or the other, and they're quite strong. So I was like, well, why don't I just put both on the same character and see what happens?
Two great tastes that go great together.
Yeah. Now you just got to find a way to use them both at the same time.
I'm trying to talk Paige into letting me shoot my greatsword.
Yes.
And she says maybe once I attune to it just a little more and discover a few more mysteries. But I don't know if she's telling the truth.
You never know.
You never know. A wily
one. Old Slow Tiger asks, to the fiendish Dr. Huang, were you planning to retire Mira? Who? What?
That's you.
That's me. I know.
I mean, like, I should ask this question. So
yeah, I mean, go ahead. Here. You should adopt the suspenders.
The fiendish Dr. Huang. Were you planning to retire Mira, or was that just a story opportunity that presented itself? It just felt right to you.
I would say it was more of a story opportunity that presented itself, and that felt right. I had a lot of fun playing Mira as sort of this outsider character who had a very different kind of view on what duty meant than everyone else in sort of a military unit, right? Like, she's sort of she's not as rough. She's kind of a little bit more squeamish, just generally. I remember one of the things I wrote for her was that she was, freaked out by the sight of blood, which, of course, in the adventuring party is kind of a ridiculous thing. I didn't play that up as much, but I was looking at my notes again, and it was in there. But she's also sort of a believer in like the big ideas. And I think the big idea of stopping this massive evil in this moment with herself, and it's kind of there's sort of a question mark, right? Like she could be destroyed, but like she's dropping into this really powerful magical object. You almost don't know what's going to happen in that case either. Although it is fairly certain death. So I think all of that fit her sort of curiosity as well. I did kind of pull it on everyone without really mentioning it at all.
Because if we were planning to retire Mira, none of us were aware of it, because when you dropped into that, after the camera stopped, we were just like, whoa!
Yep.
You were like, she's scouting. Wait, what?
And I think that's where I called the game, right?
Yeah.
And we also wrapped up that night, and we all kind of had like, okay, what now?
Until I got Mira to actually like, I was like, oh right, I can assume this form, and I can just climb up over there, and here's this opportunity just waiting for me. So I did kind of just dive into it. I love all of my characters. I think it's an interesting moment to just choose and be like, okay, this is the thing I'm going to do. And that was kind of one of those moments where I was like, this is the thing, no looking back. Thank you, Dan. It was a lot of fun to take that chance, and it's very liberating because I feel like I play a lot of my characters very safe, and sometimes it's entertaining just to hang it all out there. So
hang it all out there into the black iron cauldron of doom.
Right. So fuck it. Why not go all the way?
Look,
It was very powerful.
Andrew, it's going to be amazing when Mira walks out of the other side and ends up in like Deadlands.
Right. Yes.
It's just a wormhole.
Just the wormhole.
It is not a wormhole. She is dead. D-E-D dead.
Crossover land.
She is pining for the fjords.
Mira, is this a crossover episode?
This is an ex-druid.
Yes.
No more.
We're going to start another stream that starts at 10, and then you can just jump into that one.
There you go.
There you go.
But I'm really glad that people liked it. I don't know. I hope we continue to do super dramatic things on this show because it makes for really interesting stream-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think something pretty dramatic happened recently. I think the whole reasoning behind us going to help the Knolls out is pretty dramatic. If Joe wanted to chime in about that.
Yeah.
That is like the lie of Damocles hanging above your head.
It's so great. It's really just the best. Yeah. So like, I don't know. I mean, like, I think ultimately it was a group effort, right? So we as a group talked a lot about like, well, what do we want to do next? Do we want to go help these Knolls or not? And kind of what we came down to was like, we do, but it doesn't make sense from a story standpoint, right? Because it's like we got this thing we got to go do, right? There's no way that our boss is going to call us off of it. So we were trying to figure out, hey,
it took us a week.
Like we talked about it for a while, right?
Yeah,
like,
we had
were
a
at
long conference call that Friday afterwards trying
Not
to...
one, two.
No, don't let everyone see how the magic is made. It's
so we were at a real impasse,
beautifully.
right? Because we were like, hey, how do we get to this thing that we think narratively we want to do? And so we were sitting there, and I was like, well, what if Wildfire just lied about it, right? Like, he is in contact with the leadership. No one else is. What if Wildfire just lied? And, some of it comes down to, Wildfire was very moved by Mira's death and feels that doing this in some way, like, he's kind of got on a what would Mira do bracelet right now.
Yeah.
And probably will for the rest of his life, ultimately. He, while it'll be Wildfire's view of what Mira would do, which will be hilarious to put it through that lens.
Yes.
But I think he's always gonna like that. That affected Wildfire a lot, right? And I think in some ways he feels very responsible for it because he was the one who told everyone about it, right? Like he's the bringer of information that led to Mira's death. He feels like he hasn't expressed this to the party, but he feels like really directly responsible, like in an extremely direct way.
We have many more therapy sessions to work through for all.
Exactly.
Well, and that's good role play.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see Wildfire's personality develop as he does the right thing.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Coda.
Right thing is still Fireball, right?
Yeah.
He does a thing that he feels is right.
Questions later.
For reasons that are his own.
So I wanted to touch on that a minute about what we just talked about, and especially going back to Dan's question earlier about how many of us are games of our own and tips for being an effective dungeon master. And the number one tip that I have is I don't know who's making noise with this stuff.
Sorry.
The number one tip that I have is talk to your players. Figure out what they want, where they want to go, what stories they want to explore. The session 0 is one of your best tools in your toolbox.
100%.
What your players are.
Do you want to explain a little bit more about what session 0 is?
Yeah, I don't mind doing that. So session 0 is where you sit down with all your players and talk about what your ideas for the campaign are. If you, as the DM, so like what type of story you want to tell, what type of themes you'll be exploring. Recently, I've also included questions like, how dark do you want it to be? So that would, if we were all like, oh yeah, no, we're totally cool, life's fine, we want to do something dark, that's when you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go more towards Dark Sun, as opposed to, I need something lighter, let's have Noble Brights, in which case we ended up with what we have here.
And that depends a lot on people's moods, too, because we've played all these things.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And but it's also a big point of like, when you talk to other players, you can be like, hey, I imagine this campaign going for X amount of time. So with that in mind, where should we steer the ship? I have some ideas, but I want to make sure I get your ideas too. And one of the best things that I've found is to come up with some questions, put them into a Google form and send them to your players, and then discuss together in the 0. That way you're not putting anybody on the spot to answer a question. And if you make the answers anonymous, then you can be like, all right, well, it looks like we have a fair portion of people that want to do this. Does anybody want to talk about why they chose this and what they're looking for in particular?
So it sounds like you get more insight into what people want and what people are playing, kind of.
Right.
Anonymous feedback is priceless.
And I found them incredibly useful. But the thing is, don't stop your talking with the players there. One of the things that's
Joe, we can hear more background noise.
What background noise are you guys hearing?
I don't know. It's come from somewhere. It sounds electronic to me.
It's his cyberware rebooting.
Joe has a lot of implants.
Yeah.
He goes to a Ripper like almost every other week.
Anyways, but don't let your conversations with your players stop there. Talk to them about their backgrounds. Talk to them about what kind of character development they want to see, what villains they think are important. Like, if they have a real hard-on for undead, and another player has a real hard-on for corrupt local government, man, chocolate and peanut butter that stuff together. Have, an undead overlord that was a former member of a noble family that is controlling the government and faulting them at every turn, and make paths for them to get there so that they can beat up the bad guys that they want to beat up, and you can still tell a great story.
Yep.
Ben, that's a real big strength you have. You're really good at sort of, giving people that spotlight moment that they really design their character for in some cases. Can you go on a little bit more about how you build that? Because I really like this example you made.
So for me, it's gotten to be a lot less of what I want to see in the story and what will make a good story as an experience. one of the things that that I have evolved out of is, what'll make a cool, set piece or a cool, climactic battle. And it turns out that if you listen to your players and find out what they're interested in, you can then take that and, battle 10 or 11 and then make it epic and climactic for them just by giving them what they want.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah, it's weird. And the thing is, if you were doing that and you're making it your own and everyone's having fun with you, you're also going to have a bunch of fun.
So this sounds almost like a little bit less like, because some people have the classic idea that, DMs go and they heads down for a long time. This sounds more like a dialogue that you're having with your players.
Well, I mean, there's certainly a fair amount of heads down that occurs as well. And one of the things that I think Joe can speak to really well, in addition, because he's running a game now.
Yeah.
We got a 0 and we talked about a bunch of stuff, and he got a bunch of information from us. And then he got a bunch of ideas to begin with, and I do this as well. And a bunch of things about the setting, and then you take kind of the threads that you have and weave them in the direction where it involves the players, and then lets them fuck up the tapestry, more or less. And
yeah, I mean, one trick is that, really it's about asking player questions, right? Because, sometimes, especially if you're a new GM, your players might not know what they want, right? They might have a trouble knowing what story they want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, even experienced role players have trouble kind of seeing, hey, what story does this represent here? Or, hey, I have a character, I don't know where they're going, but hey, here's all their background. And I'm like, well, cool, based on this, that this might be where the character's going. Let's float something out there and see how the character reacts to that. It's always extremely important. It's honestly the hardest part of GMing and the easiest part, because ultimately it's just hey, ask people stuff, but you gotta do it and you gotta put in the time, right? It takes effort to tailor stuff in that way.
Maybe this is a good one to dig into a little more. I mean, he's asking about tips. I mean, what do you do to dig in?
Well, it depends on the system. To be honest, it does.
Yeah.
So we're in a game that I'm running, right? We're playing Monster of the Week, and Monster of the Week is literally built for this, right? So at the start of the campaign, everybody knows everyone else and has you have a list of prompts, and you pick a prompt for every other person.
Yeah.
So everyone is this complicated tangle web of people, and out of that, when I was doing that for my Monster of the Week game, 15 plot hooks came out of that, right? Because it's cool. Hey, Ben, who's a vampire, was drive-by vampired for some reason and then saved by some other person's character. And it's okay, cool. How did that happen? Why did that happen? What does that mean about the world?
Plus, you've created the phrase drive-by vampiring.
Exactly.
I mean, I really love, that's something I really loved from Fate was, people co-writing their stories together, original Fate. At the session 0, which helped to create those bonds. So it sounds like you're talking about something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can kind of speak on Also Tiger's most recent comment there about the pre-written adventures.
Yeah, actually, could you just sort of paraphrase what you just said?
Yeah, so I mean, Also Tiger is saying that he tried some pre-written adventures, thinking that they would be a good fit, just due to a lack of time on his part as a DM, and I have been on both the giving and receiving side of pre-written adventures, and I don't know if this is just me, but I almost find that I never enjoy them. And it comes a lot. I don't want to say never. Ben Page, y'all do a great, fantastic job. It's great. It's great. But,
Okay, Coda, it's okay.
Good old backhanded doctor.
Ben Page, our
I love you guys.
world famous module writers.
My big issue is that a lot of times pre-made content can feel pre-made. And as a DM, and especially as a player, I don't enjoy that predictability in my game. And I don't know if y'all have noticed this, but as a player, I tend to be more on the unpredictable side.
What?
Yeah,
No.
right?
Yeah.
That was like the Shyamalan moment for this whole stream right there.
Yeah, we should just end it right now. Now it's over.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, if you ever want like a masterclass in playing a chaotic neutral character, just
Ding.
follow Coda for a little bit.
I'll be
and you'll
giving a TED talk later.
We're gonna come back to Ross because we can't not come back to Ross. But
like,
I think it's an interesting point that you bring up about pre-gen material.
I enjoy a certain amount of flexibility, and there are certainly better written modules than others. My only problem is that like my role-playing experience has developed around, and this is mostly coming out of my high school years and the early college years where we did play pre-canned content.
Yeah.
And it was run very procedurally. There will be an interaction with an NPC, there will be a second combat, there will be a combat, there will be a combat that is not necessary, and then there will be a big boss fight.
The random thug encounter, yes.
Right. And it was almost like a role-playing by numbers, and a certain part of my high school brain loved watching those XP points go up and getting my new powers, and then I could tell all my friends about how awesome my D&D character was.
I mean, this is the beauty of the 4th edition Living campaign.
So much fun.
Yeah.
And I think, like Ben said, as I've gotten older, I find that I enjoy that experience a lot less. That I'm more here for the collective storytelling that I have never gotten that experience like I've gotten with something that somebody has made up.
I would like to take the other side of that.
Please do.
So, particularly as a new DM, my strongest suggestion is small bites.
Okay.
Small bites. Like the intro adventure for 5th edition is Lost Mines of Phandelver. That thing can take like I can give you a highlights tour in 6 hours, but it's
Ben is making a face though.
He's allowed to have different opinions. Encouraged even.
No, I'm making the face that Lost Mines is, I don't know why I didn't say honest, in my opinion, a terrible introduction adventure.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's way too long. Like, to do it any kind of justice, it's what, 30 hours, 20 hours?
No, it's at least 15, which is
Yeah.
sessions. And I'm really glad they did the Ice Spire Peak. Wow, I didn't realize how difficult that was to say until now. Box set, which is a bunch of smaller adventures.
Yeah.
Are much better for that.
Yeah, if you're going to be a first-time DM, I will extend this offer to everyone in our chat and everyone who sees this video.
Oh.
I will buy you an adventure on the DM's Guild that takes 2 to 4 hours to run. It's one night, and just if you've never run D&D before, start with a real small bite like that.
You're going to give them the Elsewhere adventure from Bethesda, right?
Yes.
Cool.
And in one small adventure, you can't really touch every character's story, but it'll help ease you into the idea of I'm a DM and I got to think about all these things and it's kind of scary and everybody's looking at me and which dice do I roll? So starting off with these little small bite-sized adventures is a fabulous way. And particularly if you have new players, they're going to be so delighted that you're just willing to DM, they'll forgive any mistake you make.
I feel like there's a WoW parallel I could make for like when you find a healer, like everybody's just thankful that you're a healer. Is it a healer still? Who's still playing WoW?
I'm playing a lot of WoW, actually.
It seems to be always a healer or a tank. You're missing one or the other.
Yeah.
Right. Like you show up and everybody's just thankful you're there. Yeah.
So maybe there's what about this argument that canned content actually gives you more room to think about those player connection bits?
So go ahead, Ben.
Doing that in Rime of the Frostmaiden now. Rime of the Frostmaiden is another. It has a plot. It has basically 3 plots that are not very well strung together, and it has a whole wide. Like basically, there's stuff, there's encounters and stories just all over Icewind Dale. which means it's a great playground to play in. But unless you talk to your players, I gotta go back to that, and find out what they're interested in, you could wander around like crazy people. Paige should say Jews in the desert. I probably shouldn't.
Those are my people. I can do it.
Okay. And I'm what's that thing I am?
Shiska.
There we go. I've been told that that's a humorous thing.
You make lovely matzo ball soup, though.
This is true. Anyways, back to
Icewind Dale.
canned content to make player stories matter more, which can also work in Dragon Heist because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the city.
Yeah.
Among others, it's harder for straight stories that such as Tyranny of Dragons and things like that.
I've never told a straight story in my life, sir.
But swish. Anyways, what I was getting to is
Leave
the
me
content
hanging.
allows you.
I'm hanging. There we go.
Sorry, the cane content allows you to take less off of your shoulders, and as far as planning and encounters, and I found that's great, especially with Roll20, because on Roll20 you can just purchase right with the Frostbane. Here's all the encounters.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many of you are trying to run online or have played games online at Ballman games or watched a whole bunch of streams, but Roll20 is a lot to learn, and the amount of prep that it takes to get something looking nice and fully playable is a lot. But if you take that out of the equation, you can find out what your players want to do, and then go through the content and be like, this has nothing to do with what they want. But this is a way I can connect the stories in Town A to Town C and get the players moving from one to the other and can meet other people in 10 towns. That sounds great. And sometimes those ties will work out, and sometimes your players will zig when you think they should zag. And here's the thing. It is totally okay to both say, hey, I didn't plan for this. We're going to stop here tonight, and I'll be ready next week.
Yeah. And I think that's real important to be able to do.
Because, being able to do that and being able to say no are two things, don't get me wrong, I love yes ands, and I love being like, oh, you want to do that? That sounds great. But sometimes, in order so that you can keep control and continue having fun, because remember, if you're not having fun, your players are not going to have fun, because the game will end, because you'll get frustrated, burnt out, all manner of other things that will lead to you not approaching the game with the amount of fun and exhilaration that is then infectious for all of your players, and then that just grows and grows and grows and spreads through your players. Getting back to what the original thing was, though.
I have something I want to add after you're done.
Me as well.
Ooh, how exciting. There's a lot of ways that you can use canned content, and there's a lot on DMing Guilds that are great guides for how to use that pre-canned content.
Yeah.
There's some of the Icewind Dale ones that are put together that I will put in the chat here.
I got it.
I don't know that you're thinking of the exact ones I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Are great at saying, hey, this is a cool thing, but it's likely too powerful. You should save this for a later level, or you should move this thing that's in Town A to here so that it gets content that feeds into one of the major plots rather than the players potentially missing a whole big section of plots, because that's possible in a sandbox game. And so with that, I will hand it over to Coda.
Yeah, just to kind of acquiesce to both Ben and Paige's points a little bit, one thing I will say is that if you are running canned content, as a DM, the more familiar you become with that content, the more flexible you can become with it. And that is going to add into your ability to integrate player stories more easily. And again, building that overall storytelling experience. And the perfect example of that, I'm going to show my colors here, is I picked up when it first came out, the Red Hand of Doom campaign. That was
that's so good.
And fell in love with it. And I ran that campaign so much that there was one day I walked into Ben and Paige's house. They had a map on the table, no figures, no context. And I was like, oh, somebody's playing Red Hand of Doom. I know
story.
that campaign like the back of my hand, but because of that, I can twist it, I can bend it, I can even break it in points to make for a better story.
So I think that's a really great piece of advice. So for a first-time DM, how would you, what's the process to get familiar beyond playing it 100 times like you've done? Like, how do you get familiar with some content?
Well,
one more thing before Mike continues, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Tell your players that you're running canned content. They will be cool with it, and they will want to know what the plot hooks are and how it fits together, and they will want to make characters that experience that content.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Otherwise, they're going to make some kind of weird peanut butter and jelly thing that you're not going to serve at the French restaurant that you like. And it's going to be bad.
Well, and if you are running canned content, like, don't let your players come up with this intricate, detailed character background that is almost certainly not going to make it into your game. Because then they're going to be left feeling like they put a lot of love and work into their character, and that got left by the wayside. And kind of on that same stick, like, a lot of pre-made content will give you these detailed histories of an NPC that you could spend hours reading and memorizing, and then your players are going to walk in and just kill them.
Grease them.
Mm-hmm.
100% guarantee they'll grease them if you have a backstory. Ask me how I know.
But this is also a great opportunity where if you talk to your players, you can have this character with this 10-page backstory and have them tied together and have reasons why the players don't want to immediately kill them, or ways that character can make them want to kill them with horrible betrayal and other things that will be great drama.
One of my favorite examples of that is we once greased a NPC, and later in the campaign, the DM said, "You were supposed to, like, marry that NPC." So I don't know what happened here, but something went horribly wrong.
Paige, did you? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So I had two things. First, word of warning about the Wizards of the Coast published adventures. One, they're generally fantastic. But the way, I'm not going to say all of them, but far too many of them are set up. You have a good chunk of adventure that takes you from level 1 to 5. And then you have a cool adventure that takes you from level like 8 or 9 or 10 to 14. And nothing happens in the middle. They just like give you like, it's like two different people wrote those two ends of the adventure, and there's just kind of a, well, I don't know, something happens here in the middle part of it.
Yeah.
Storm King's Thunder is the absolute worst for that.
And it still happens in Rhyme.
Does it?
And that's one of the things that the supplement that I just posted in chat I found to be incredibly helpful, because it helps you tie the various things together. And also, it's like, if you have players that are interested in this, you can include this one without me having to spend brain cycles reading all of them and then being like, is this one going to work? Should I really prep this map? Should I put one?
And it's what, like $5 or something?
So the total one, which is like the whole book, is 15.
Sure.
But the first one, which is just 10 towns, which is arguably some of the most complicated content, because okay, so you start out in many of these things in one place, one city, one thing. 10 towns is 10 distinct locations that your players may go to.
That's a lot of content to
keep
organized.
Content, and if you're doing it from an anthropological standpoint, you're going to want those towns to feel different and have different traditions and be built off of the small background that you're given. And that turns into a huge amount of work that, if the characters never go to Goodmead and you spend a bunch of time developing Goodmead, fuck you, right?
Pretty much. So yeah, so word of warning, be careful with the Wizards of the Coast adventures and realize they have a good start and a good ending and a non-existent middle, which is another reason why I suggest starting off with 1-bite 4-hour adventures before leaping into those. As far as preparing an adventure, I learn by organizing data. So I have to basically read it and kind of build an outline in my head and keep looking back at the table of contents to see how they've structured it. So I usually read it a couple times, kind of mentally walk through the fights, look at the monsters to see who does the weird stuff, and then I'm usually good to go. Also, even if you have a canned adventure, don't be afraid to throw it the hell out. Like if the canned adventure is X and all of a sudden the PCs are doing Y, if you're comfortable doing Y, don't worry about it. Just keep going. Like those words on the page are not the boss of you.
Paige's advice is just to be a spectacular, spontaneous DM, and that solves all your problems.
Yeah, we're straight.
But I'm just saying you're allowed to ignore the book.
So one thing I wanted to say, but to kind of interrupt here, sorry. So specifically to Dragonite and to anyone else who listened to our season 1, I want to apologize that we didn't finish season 1. And I wanted to express why we didn't finish season 1. We didn't finish season 1 because we all made a mistake. And that's we thought that we could spend a bunch of time editing episodes instead of just releasing them. One of the greatest things about Twitch, honestly, for us as a group, has been a realization about how it's best to play D&D that you want to release for other people to listen to. Because we tried desperately to keep up with the flow for season 1, and it just defeated us. So I apologize to everyone who was enjoying season 1 and didn't get to see the ending, because it defeated us. It
was so many hours of editing.
You know, we could just release the raw audio.
So,
Nope. So rough.
If anybody is thinking about starting a podcast out there, like keep in mind that for every minute of recorded audio that you have, it really is going to be between 10 to 20 minutes of editing time.
Well, wait, maybe at least 2 to 3 minutes of editing time. Because like you would get, like, we would do like what, 4-hour sessions, I think, with the goal of cutting it down to an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Yep.
Which was also by itself grueling.
Yeah,
that in and of itself was a mistake.
Yeah, it was. I mean, because we started out that way, and we all could do it, and then we're like, well, fine, if we can do it, we'll just do it, and then that's not a good philosophy.
It was hard. It was
really hard.
Dear audience, if you have questions about the technical aspects of either the podcast or this stream, please feel free to throw them into the question box here. We could probably do a whole other session just talking about that and the trial and error.
Yes,
I don't. Oh, yes, we could.
Yeah, totally. I don't want to get into it super far just because that was not. I didn't intend it to take us away from D&D playing to this technical thing, but I did think that Dragonite and anyone else does deserve an apology.
Kurgosh demands to know what happened to subscriber music.
What is subscriber music? Is that a Twitch thing?
The music that we normally play when subscribers happen.
That we dance
we're using a temporary setup this week due to my own illness. So sorry, but getting everything set up to run smoothly is a lot of work.
Oh yeah,
it's less work than editing.
It is less work than editing. Everything in the universe is less work than editing. Getting married is less work than editing, as far as I can tell. Maybe equivalent.
I think this is a pretty amazing.
That was me making a joke, Paige. That was a joke that I was making there.
Yeah, getting married was a lot of work. It was more fun than editing, though. It was a lot of work, fun work.
Yeah.
All right, I want to shift gears here away from trying to compare editing and marriage.
Yes, that sounds best.
That wasn't our list of things to cover, though.
We nailed it. We checked it off.
Ron, I didn't know if you had any other tips for a beginner GM.
I agree with Paige that starting with a 4-hour adventure is great. My advice would be to mind time management. If you know you're going to do a 4-hour adventure and you read it, you should choose which parts you think are the coolest. Hopefully you're right. And make sure that you give enough time, because your players will will just kind of stumble along, and they're not going to carefully arc 4 hours through your adventure. That is probably the main thing the DM has to do, is make sure that when you get to the finale, that there's still an hour of playtime left, because it really puts a damper on a session when you don't get to experience that climax. People will be a lot happier if you finish a half an hour earlier and they can spend their time talking about how they kicked the big bad's ass.
Yeah.
Or whatever, than if you run out of time and you never even get to see his face. So
what do you do? What do you do to make sure that you're on time?
I've gone so far as to set timers on my phone when I've run at a convention or whatever, and I've let it, beat me, because I'll have it. I'll basically, if I'm running at a convention, I'll almost have the mod generally in like 3 blobs.
Yeah.
That I'll run, and like I'll have everyone introduce themselves, and then we'll do the 3 things I think are coolest, whether the players want to or not, and then we're done. And generally, people enjoy that. But that's taking the time constraints into practice, and I think, it's not all bad though to be like that. Like for this show, we don't have time constraints per se, but we do try and get things done, and I think that can help keep the story moving and keep interesting things happening, because you can spend a lot of time talking about gelato, and it is super awesome, but you probably also want to advance everyone's story and stuff.
And I think that addresses Old Slow Tiger's question about comment about distinguishing organized and home play, is that the game still needs to move along even in home play a little bit. Yeah. But this is also a great moment for us to explain gelato. Maybe again. I think we have in the past, but
now's a great time for Paige to go to the bathroom. Y'all explain gelato. You're on your own.
Cool.
Gelato is Paige's trigger word now.
It really
apparently.
So there's a game. There's an excellent game.
Grab her mic. Put it up to your face, Ben.
Hey team, how's it going? I'm gonna turn. Oh, I can turn this.
Yeah.
Now you can see me and hear me.
Yeah.
All right. So, Nice Black Agents is a excellent game where you play mortals that are hunting vampires. And Paige thought it'd be super cool to do a game of that. We agreed.
We had just watched Atomic Blonde.
Yes, and it's set. So we had a game set during the Cold War, and we were like, "This is gonna be awesome." It's
gritty, neon, big
Was
hair.
that game during the Cold War? I had no idea.
It was set in like the 80s.
Yeah. Anyways, so our first mission is in Sicily, right?
Yes.
So our first game is in Sicily, and so we start looking at what there is to do in Sicily, and when I'm doing modern-esque games, I tend to go to the Lonely Planet Guide and a couple other places where I can draw from inspiration about what's really there or what is important to that culture. And it turns out in Sicily, the important things are food, drink.
I hope this would be over by now.
Of course. So you could hear me talking from all over. You could have just waited. This is all your own fault. And so we had an excellent time where we wandered across Sicily and had a whole bunch of gelato and bought a bunch of really nice clothes and drank a whole bunch of wine. And there were some vampires doing stuff at one point too.
I like how he hasn't even mentioned gelato yet.
There was so much gelato.
It was supposed to be a gritty Cold War adventure. For those of you who've seen
1980s Berlin. It was going to be awesome. There was a whole bunch of real world history events that I picked out, depending on what the characters themselves were interested in. And the vampires that kind of secretly were behind everything were going to be involved in all these historical events. And so the idea was that the players would play out these historical events where all the details were right from the news, but the backstory was like vampires versus secret agents. It was going to be awesome.
Yeah. Vampires page, whatever. What I remember about this, though, is that what actually ended up happening is Paige took us on this fantastic mental vacation to Sicily. Like, we as a group went on vacation to Italy in our minds, and it was delightful.
It's the classic example of you need to verify with your players what they're looking for before the campaign starts.
No, that's not true at all, because we all said we were in for this.
That's true. That's true. We ruined it.
We ruined
it, and it was so funny because Paige got madder
It's like-
and madder and madder, and it just got funnier and funnier and funnier.
She made this giant double dip cone, handcrafted waffle cone of gelato. We took it and we just threw it right at the ground.
It was beautiful.
But we did eat it off the ground.
Yeah.
We did eat it off the ground for sure. It
Let
was
us
delicious.
leave this ignominious topic and transition to another ignominious topic, which is Ross and his interesting history. Because I really love the character and how basically you and Paige especially have really built this out. I don't know if Mike, you want to just sort of tell us a little bit more about Ross and what you were thinking when you made Ross?
So, as I said previously, like, I know that Forgotten Realms exists.
It's about Ross level there.
That's about the extent of my player knowledge of Forgotten Realms,
Yeah.
though. So, like, I wanted to play kind of the outsider to Echoland, the person who is learning about this place. And then I personally just really enjoyed barbarians and wanted to do something different. And I mean, like, lizard folk are cool. Like, they are. We went into the Noble Bright, and like, what is more Noble Bright than not murdering literally every monster we come across? Which I think we've done a pretty good job of.
I mean, y'all will pet nearly anything that comes up to you.
Or
Or try to.
Gonna get us killed when we try to pet the Fae. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, then all you.
I was gonna say, it's gonna get us in big trouble when we try to pet the Fae.
Fair.
With it,
Fair.
with it.
Maybe Russ will be leaving with a new animal companion. We don't know. Yeah, so that was kind of the history of Ross. And then from that, like, kind of talking with Paige about her love of gnolls kind of gave rise to the, like, okay, well, cool. What about lizard folk? And she was far less interested in that topic.
Far less interested, but lizard folk are still awesome.
I thought she did a really good job of incorporating that.
And different dynamics between the different lizard folk tribes.
Mhm.
And since not all of our audience has experienced all the pieces, I mean, maybe share Ross's sort of background again with us, because I really like the discussions you've had about that in game.
Yeah, this has been kind of in the background a little bit. It's come up at times, but like, Ross was a lizard folk warrior who was the prophesized child, in essence. Like, his scales bared the marks that would be on the next shaman that would lead his tribe to greatness, yada yada yada.
Because it's Tiger Tribe and he's white with the black stripes.
He wants to punch things, and like, that's not really the role of a shaman. So he kind of railed against this prescribed destiny a little bit until he got to the point where they're like, hey, look, here's what I want you to do. So, and again, this hasn't come out terribly much in gameplay yet, but there is a particular person, a lizard folk that he aspires to, and he's like, hey, look, you gotta go learn more about the world. Because the problem is, you're young of mind, so get out there and see what the world has to offer. But in order to do that, he sent him on a vision quest to go commune with the elements, which is totally a thing that shamans do, right?
Sure.
That's a thing. Maybe. Who knows? When he comes back, I'm sure Ross will either be dead or totally fine, as is the lizard folk way. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And so now Ross is set on an impossible task to commune with spirits that may or may not exist.
I'm really looking forward to that.
And you have communed with a fair few elemental spirits.
Define impossible, because like elemental spirits totally exist.
I was one with all the water in the world at one point in time. It was great.
I mean, at this point, can't you just be like, "Hey, Wildfire, I need you to cast me a fire elemental and then earth elemental and then air elemental," and then you could just be done.
It doesn't count if you cheat.
I mean, it totally counts if you cheat. Wildfire is here to tell you people.
Only wild caught elementals count. None of the farm raised elementals.
Well, the ones that Wildfire summons only last for like 10 seconds anyway.
So
It's true.
Truth.
we also come to
By 10 you mean 12, but sure.
one of many of Ross's many character flaws. He's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. So, he's doing his best.
I think you're good at playing the line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not to say that he's not smart. Like, he is definitely worldly. Like, he knows how to hunt things. He knows how to make thongs out of things.
And he still has an int of like 10, right?
Yeah, like he's
So
not
he's average. He's entirely average.
dumb, but he does need things kind of laid out plain for him. Man after my own heart, honestly.
But I like that we get the sense that he's lived among lizard people most of his life, rather than, I mean, sort of the wider world of other, like, non-lizard people in Forgotten Realms. That really comes across in everything he does.
Yeah, it's actually one reason I really like playing non-human classes, which is tough because for the longest time, especially in 3.5, like, human was just better than. Like, that extra feat that you got in 3.5.
It's still very hot. It's still very hot.
But I also have absolutely no qualms with playing a suboptimal character.
That's a strong one.
I got it out of Ron.
I mean,
Ron, how does that make you feel?
I just
see, so just for background, Ron, so Ben, Ron, and I have played some pretty hardcore, super technical, power gamery, super cheesy D&D. Like, fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Whatever.
And Ron has a very precise and organized mind for the rules, how they're applied, and how to optimize. And he likes that.
And it works well. I go to Ron for a lot of advice.
Mm-hmm. And Ron has definitely kept me on the straight and narrow, and thank you for that, Ron. But, like, take the Ranger cross-class here. Like, literally I had no intention of cross-classing out of Barbarian when we started this campaign. But the story dictates that I got an animal companion now. And, like, I am all for one to follow kind of that path as a player. So that's how I end up with the cleric wizards.
See, in 3.5, a cleric wizard was quite alright. Yeah, Mystic Theurge.
Ron, how do you feel about playing non-optimized characters?
I mean, to a certain.
Other than Ben here, apparently throwing shade on you. I mean,
So much shade.
I think you have more fun if you're getting the most out of your character.
Yeah.
Like, because you just want to, because your adventurer in my mind is good at something, right? That's why they're part of the party. That's why they're not dead on the side of the road.
That's why they read the brief beforehand.
Yeah. So like if you take Victor as an example, I'm trying to make him strong at two things at once, right?
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
inherently that's suboptimal because you could easily make someone that's better at fighting with a greatsword or someone that's better as an archer.
Mm-hmm.
So, by trying to do two things, it's not optimal per se, but it's still fun, and I still get stuff done.
Yeah.
I would mainly tease Coda, and other times beg him, to use the class abilities that he had. It wasn't so much about his build, but just
How you played it.
yeah, using the powers that he had, because I just think you have more fun if you're taking advantage on your attacks because your class lets you do that, or
Mm-hmm.
casting spells. It's definitely a thing, because some people like power gaming, like, because another thing is when you're playing with the rules, like to me, we're playing a shared storytelling game, and the purpose of the rules of D&D, because we all want our characters to do cool things.
Yeah, yeah.
The rules give us a framework where we can all do cool things. In a way, we can all do cool things that our characters let us do, and it's not just about who can be the most clever about their wordplay or who just says that they're the strongest. Everyone has mechanical things, so they let you be cool. And if you want to play a strong character and the other people at your table aren't playing as strong a character, that can cause problems because you want everyone to have a good time. And so you don't want, if your character takes better advantage of the rules than other characters, it's basically defeating the purpose of the rules, which is to have a framework where everyone can be cool equally.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So my solution to that is to badger Coda into making stronger characters. Other solutions is you can just sandbag your character and not do everything that they can,
Mm-hmm.
and you still often have a good time. Like in organized play, that's often the solution, is just hold back.
Interesting.
My counterpoint to that is, and this is more of an advanced segment, because back to talking to your players, if you have somebody that is sharp and pointy in combat and the other characters are super sharp and pointy at other things that may not be combat, talk to the player and see if maybe you should just have fewer but more meaningful combats that character can shine in, and the characters that are good at other things can shine in the non-combat situations.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty important thing for a DM to consider.
Nope. I think we lost Ben.
You just lost your audio, Ben.
Oh, sorry. I muted mine, and I might have muted you too.
This because we were getting reverb on that one.
Oh, so we're going through here?
Yes.
Got it.
Which
Sorry.
is exciting.
I did not know. I was pointing towards
They
you.
heard me fine before you did that. But...
I know. But they were also hearing me type, so I muted myself.
Ben, say what you said again, because I think I like the beginning what you said.
So it goes back to talking to your players and making sure that if one person's super sharp at combat, maybe the best way to do that is to have fewer combats that would be more meaningful, where there's a chance for them to shine. And some of the characters that you're going to have, or the players that you have, are going to be more comfortable with their characters not being good at things but trying anyways. Monster of the Week and some other game systems are really good at you gain experience when you fail.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about D&D and combat, is basically where all the XP was for multiple editions, and now that's not as the case, especially with the milestone system.
Right.
Have fewer combats and have story points be more meaningful, and encourage people to do things that they're not optimal at to move the story forward.
I really like that.
And getting that, sometimes being vulnerable and trying things that you're not good at, but that you want to succeed, makes good drama and good roleplay. And if you're trying to do something that you're not good at, so for instance, I know Ron's character is really strong in social. It gives me an opportunity for my character, the big, barbarian brutes, to go over to Ron's character and be like, I don't understand how this works, and I really like to pick up on some well.
I also like Old Slow Tiger's point about the Ars Magica model, where some people are just better than others in certain circumstances. It's very circumstance driven, and that's okay. although this was actually a riff off of Paige's question, or question to Paige about if you were on the player side, what systems you want to play. I didn't know if you wanted to just say for our audio audience what some of those systems were.
Oh my god. So I would really like to play Blue Planet, which probably only one other person that is ever going to view this material has ever seen or heard of.
I am also excited by that, by the way.
Okay, sure. So y'all might have heard me talk about Blue Planet before, but for those of you who don't know it,
yes,
there are 15 viewers that are now going to be looking for Blue Planet.
Yeah. Actually, if you could tell them a little bit about Blue Planet.
Yeah, sure. So it's it is a game in the not too distant future, kind of like not yet Star Trek levels of future, but spaceships and other stuff kind of future. And humanity discovers the planet's about rung out from resources, and humanity discovers a wormhole to another Earth-like planet that is actually like 90% water and seawater. And so what they do is they genetically modify and uplift a bunch of cetaceans and people to make them more functional in this marine environment. And then the conduit collapses and the planet's left on its own for a while, and play starts right as that conduit opens back up again. And I'm a marine biologist, and it just tickles all parts of me that I have not had tickled by a role-playing game before, and I'd really love to play it. And
are you telling me this is a role-playing game where I could play an orca character?
Yes, you can.
I'm in.
I'm going to eat Mike's character first scene.
Yes. So in fact, our friend Old Slow Tiger was one of the contributing authors for it. And they point out it's kind of like Expanse level tech, which seems perfect. Perfect comparability for it. So I'd love to play Blue Planet. I would love to play Invisible Sun, because I bought all the things for Invisible Sun thinking this group would play it. And I don't think we're gonna.
What's Invisible Sun?
It's a system by Monty Cook.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cipher system, which I realize a lot of people have kind of fallen out of love with, which is fine. And it's kind of like their version of Planescape, I think.
Oh, cool.
I don't know that much about it.
The thing about Invisible Sun is that it was basically marketed as this black box, and you just experience the campaign. That's all in the box.
Yep. And Monty Cook would, I bought it at the level where Monty Cook would specifically help you hand make games.
Oh, right. Yes. Thank you, Kickstarter.
Mhm.
Yes. Let's see, what else did I put down here for games that I would love to play? Cyberpunk, not Shadowrun. I played a lot of Shadowrun. Not
Cyberpunk Red.
Yeah. Ben and I have actually written adventures for Cyberpunk Red.
Oh, really?
Yep.
When was that?
3 years ago?
Oh, wow.
4
4
years?
years ago now.
3 years ago? 4 years ago? Something like that.
That's really cool.
What's the draw of Cyberpunk over Shadowrun?
The rules are somewhat less complicated. I don't know.
A whole handful of dice.
Yeah, I don't know that they're any better balanced. But they're somewhat less complicated. Just there's fewer numbers in the workbook. And I like the idea of stuff is just based off tech and willpower and physical prowess instead of magic.
There's no fantasy elements baked in.
There's zero fantasy element. D20 Modern. I've kind of been mulling over a modern / urban fantasy game, kind of based on a 4th edition chassis. Like, I think that would be a lot of fun.
I am a big fan of the D20 Modern books. Like back when they first came out for 3.5, I fell in love with that system, especially their Urban Arcana.
Sure, and you can take every bit of Urban Arcana, which, like the art in Urban Arcana blew my mind.
So good.
I love the Knoll Street Shark in there.
I love the Knoll.
Yeah, I think there's like a Knoll with a fedora on. Anyhow, I know they had like. Anyhow, regardless, you could do that with 5e super easy.
Mm-hmm.
It would be super easy.
Isn't that just basically called Eberron? I mean, like, you're a step back, like, you don't have computers, but you have trains, you have all the kind of stuff that you could have in a modern game. It's just has a higher fantasy element.
When they first released the Eberron content, I loved the Eberron content Warfare.
All right. I want to know from everyone who isn't Paige, at least one system that you would love to play that maybe doesn't get quite as much love.
I mean, I wanted to play Monster of the Week so much, I made it our next game on our CenterNet group.
I love it. Yeah, and it sounds. I mean, I listened to the Adventure Zone playing it. It sounded really cool there.
Yeah, I dig Monster of the Week a lot.
Ben.
I would love to go back and modify Spycraft so it's not so fucking complicated.
Right.
Like I said, you could just bolt it onto a 5th edition chassis and it'd be easy. And there's some fan products that have already done it. I'll put one in chat.
Spycraft's like I'm a huge fan of spy media stories, and
it's a really great world.
And like the idea of playing in that is fascinating and wonderful to me. And I look at the rules and I'm just like, this breaks my brain.
Right. Mike?
I would actually really love to revisit D20 Modern now that I'm thinking about it. I have discovered that I really just like plain old D&D. Like it's that high fantasy, high magic. That's where I want to be. It's my escapism. But if I had to choose something not D&D,
yeah.
Modern.
Say again?
D20 Modern.
Okay. So, Ron?
I read about a system once. It was basically set up where you were a high school clique, and character creation was everyone would write what they hated about the other people. And those are like if everyone hated you because your parents were rich, you'd get money. And if everyone hated you because you were pretty, you'd be prettier.
That's amazing.
And I don't know how long-term a campaign that would make, but I've always wanted, like, I love telling people about the idea because it always gets a laugh, and I find it intriguing. I'd like to actually play through a couple of sessions and see how it actually worked.
I feel like you could do that with any game. Just play the characters as teenagers who are adventuring together or something.
Yeah. No, you're right. I wouldn't necessarily. You're right. I don't think. I think it would almost be more fun not to do it in a high school setting because I don't know. High school setting isn't the most evocative to me.
But it could dovetail with Monsters of the Week. It could dovetail with lots of things.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that in Fate, like.
Yeah, like as soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, put that in Spycraft and be like,
yeah,
case that you do this, and you're really good at that too.
Yeah, we're gonna play a modern game, and that's how we're gonna build characters right there.
Mm.
And I like the implication that all the characters are like, fonts of insecurity and jealousy. And they don't even know what's good about themselves, right?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of. I feel like your character could really grow. Like, why is everyone always asking me to lift stuff? Wait, I'm strong,
Joe, that almost reminds me of that role-playing system that was based on like scannable cards. Do you remember that?
Yeah, you're talking about. It's actually technically a board game.
Weave.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. Yes. Weave is amazing.
It had an app that was integrated into a bunch of like scannable cards, and then like it was almost reminded me of like a tarot deck, but like each inside of the app they had a bunch of different settings. So you could play like a Stranger Things setting, you could play a Harry Potter setting, but just Ron, the way you described that reminded me of a setting that we would see in Weave.
I actually ran that at one PAX. I ran literally everyone was high schoolers. Like we literally ran that campaign. It was great.
I like it. I mean, I think these are all really great kind of storytelling like suggestions, right? Um, Joe, did you?
I said Monster of the Week.
Oh, right, of course.
But also, I would totally play Stars Without Number. Stars Without Number is great.
Yeah, what's that?
It's a space game. It's based on the Gumshoe system.
Okay.
This group likes Gumshoe a whole lot, generally.
So I think that means Andrew. What game would you like to play?
Numenera always pops out as the game that like sounded really cool. I've got the book like lying around somewhere, and I never really got a chance to play it. But it's just such a neat concept. The whole world as a travelogue was really cool. So, but that or Paranoia, the new version, was also amazing. I played a tiny bit at the previous Dragon Con in the before times with who did I play it with?
Mike
Oh my
Roddick?
god, yes,
Yeah.
and his son, and it was hilarious and ridiculous. And
Mike
also,
talked about that game for months.
yes,
Is that the one that's played with a Jenga tower?
No, that's Dread.
That's true.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But they did manage to like boil down a lot of the Paranoia stuff so that the rules were not all an impedance to backstabbing. So I thought it was a great move.
That's the heart and soul of Paranoia right there.
Yep. And I feel very bad for his son because we just pushed him right under that bus.
No, that's how Rod deals with MJ. That's he wants to know if the boy can swim, so he pushes him in the water.
The child's gonna need some therapy.
I mean, what child doesn't, right?
Opa.
Wow, he's like 20 now or something.
Is he?
Nah, he's like 18 or 17.
Yeah. But that was definitely a lot of fun. But yeah, fantastic. We are at 10 minutes till our customary end. We had all kinds of other questions to tackle. I did want to hit on maybe a couple more small character things, like Ben. You have the princess.
Yeah.
What should we be looking forward to? What were you thinking?
What was I thinking?
Scottish Twitter. That's what
Was it Scottish? Well, hey, don't
Scottish Twitter's amazing.
don't steal his thunder here.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, so it's one part Scottish Twitter. It's one part. We have Ross, who is really good at getting in front, and now has Sentinel, which is good. But we don't have somebody that was actually like really tanking. That was
Right.
discussed. And one of the things about Silvio is that he
Loved Wall.
Well, here's the thing about Silvio. Silvio was more or less a Star Trek character in a D&D game, and wanted to talk to people and figure things out that way. And when opportunities like that came up, that was great. And then when we had combats, and regular viewers will know that we have more than a few combats in this game, it was a lot of I'm gonna take cover because I don't want to die, and I've got an attack cantrip, and I've got a hypnotic pattern. And it turns out that, Paige, tell us how much you enjoy Hypnotic Pattern as a DM.
I hate one-shot, one-kill spells. Banish, not super fond of it.
Calling someone out there, Paige? Is there someone you want to have a conversation with?
I have zero qualms. Zero.
Okay, that person is now surrounded by leaping squigs and is going to get making some constitution saves here in a minute. But the hypnotic pattern just like invalidated so many encounters. Like completely invalidated them.
I think the fact he had the instrument of the bards magnified it a little bit.
Yes, the fact that I'm saving with disadvantage doesn't help.
Yeah.
So Paige and I talked about that. Another prime example of talk to your DM. And make sure that they're having fun and that you're having fun. And sometimes when that doesn't align, then it's good to switch gears. So that's one of the reasons I went to Belwyn. I have my idea with Sylvia was that he was very tied to Acheron, and was very interested in the main mission. And Belwyn's shtick is that she is kind of the wild child that doesn't. So both of her parents are, one's an arcanist, one mom's an arcanist, and one is a very traditional Moradin follower. And Belwyn is a paladin of the ancients, so does not follow either of those.
A punk.
Yeah, she's a punk. She's a punk princess and wants to see the dwarves interact more with Aglaron. And so her whole shtick is that she wants to put in a good word and help the foresters and do well so that she can, when they go back to Aglaron's, and this has been good fun a couple times. Those that have seen all of the episodes, or at least some of the ones recently, she's like, oh no, we'll go back. I'll talk to the king of Aglaron's. I'll probably marry one of his sons. Everything will be great. She does not know that there's not a king of Aglaron's and that it's run by a,
Democratically elected council.
Exactly.
Got to marry all of them now.
I know. So
Good luck.
that'll be exciting for her to figure out. But I'm able to take some of the Mira benefits of an outside viewpoint that now Malagar is able to take as well. And I really enjoy that because it allows me to ask all these questions that I think are helping, and I don't know if they are or not, but I feel like they are, and I'm sure the other players will tell me after this if they're not, or right now. They're helping them develop their characters and tell their stories and add more to how these characters are developing and what drives them and why they're doing all these crazy things other than play a game of Mage.
I'm really excited about riffing with the princess. So
Yes.
I don't know that we've ever had a princess in one of our games. We've been playing games together a long time, and I don't think we've had a princess before.
Well,
We'll just have to have more princesses in this game. Now that the princess has been entered, I wouldn't be surprised if the campaign finishes with 5 princesses.
Yeah, Ben's broke princess at this point, so
yeah, I mean, thank you, She-Ra. I'm like, I want to be a princess power.
Guys, y'all were forgetting the brief moment in which all of our characters were going to be systematically replaced with animal companion characters.
that would also be amazing. Before we wander too far off, we should come back to Wildfire.
Wait, we had one important question from chat about
what's
Malagar. Which fancy hat from Dragon Heist is Malagar wearing?
There are so many, and we will definitely come back to that. One thing at a time. I can't unroll all of Malagar at once. It's just, it'd be too much.
So as the season progresses, the hats are just going to grow.
Bigger and fancier. He's really running away from his bill with the Milners. So he owes them so much money at this point. Joe, tell us a little bit about Wildfire, where the concept for Wildfire came from, because I'm really curious. I feel like Wildfire really breaks the mold for you.
Yeah, we all want to know where that came from, because I've never seen you play a character like that, and I've been playing games with you for how long? 10 years?
yeah, I mean, I felt that, in a lot of ways, right, Corbin was kind of my safety blanket, right, of a character, right?
This is your season one. This is your season.
That was my season one character, who was a paladin of Kelmvor and the straightest of straight rods right up his butt. So he was, not in any bad way, right? Like, he was just a very straight character. He's very much the straight man of the group, for sure.
This kills the page.
That's fair. I killed Paige. Well, now Ben can't talk. That's what she gets.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. I can just
I'm sorry I killed your wife. It's a real shame. And so, right, I kind of started with I wanted to be someone who was different from that character, right? I wanted to, not exactly 360, but someone who didn't feel anything like Corbin, so I wouldn't fall into any of his any of his mannerisms.
Yeah.
So I kind of started with hey, I want to be a wizard, right? We all pick classes pretty early, besides Mike, because Mike doesn't pick classes, he picks experiences. And
Wow. Okay.
It's true. It's true. Tell me I'm wrong, and I'll take it back, Mike.
My class is definitely not the first thing I pick when I'm creating a character.
Yeah, I mean, like, and so, like, my process is normally like, hey, what do I like? Obviously, I need to know the class, right? Because I need to have a feeling for what my character is going to be good at, right?
Yeah.
And then I wanted to figure out where he came from, and I drew a fair amount of inspiration from the what are those novels that what's his name writes? Dang it, that's going to bother me.
That
Give
guy
us-
who writes the novels.
Give us a little more, Joe.
No, I know. I need to give you at least one bar so you can sing along.
Is
Other
this the one with all the
characters.
words in it?
The one with all the words in it. It's the Sexomancy books. That's the only way I can remember them.
Sexomancy.
Okay,
yeah.
audience.
Oh, Laurel
if you know,
Hamilton. Laurel K. Hamilton, the Sexomancy books.
No, not that one. I'm trying to go look for it. It doesn't matter. Like the main character is on the street for a fair number of the first novel, and so I kind of drew a lot from that, right, to kind of get his background, right, and like I kind of wanted someone who was a little bit more aloof and a little bit more.
Name of the Wind.
Thank you, Name of the Wind. Yes, exactly.
Hey, did you
thank
just
you. Thank you, old
refer
Slim.
to
Wind
Name
is
of the Wind as the Sexomancy books?
Yeah, he's heard Chris Russell say it, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, right. So I drew a lot from that, right? Because I do feel like someone who, had to kind of pull himself up by his bootstraps is going to be someone who's very out for himself, right? Like, he's very much, hey, I'm willing to help you if you can help me. And hey, once you've earned my respect, you'll have it for all time. And until you've earned my respect, I don't have time for you. That's kind of where he stemmed from.
Okay. And
like,
how do you feel about how he's playing out?
I think it's going well. I mean, like, I like characters. I like giving characters a lot of space to grow.
Yeah.
Kind of giving them like a, hey, here's where they start, and then let's see where they grow from there, right? And kind of we started with like, hey, we had a group of people, and he trusted all of them, and everything was going great, and stuff has since gone somewhat sideways, and
Which is a good challenge for a character
it's a
like
good
that.
challenge for him.
Yeah.
I think it's going well. I think it's, he feels a lot of responsibility for Mira's death. He's not entirely sure what to make of Malagar and this princess person. I think it'll be good fun.
Good. That's pretty solid. All right.
It's 10.
It is 10. Thank you, everybody.
I have one more thing I want to say to our chat.
Oh, please do.
Hey, chat. So, my secret dopamine device in this pandemic is a game called 7 Days to Die, which is a zombie shooting game. And crafting. It's survival horror building crafting.
We don't receive any money from them, by the way.
No, well, the game's like 7 years old at this point. Nobody receives money for it. And I have my own private server for it. And I would love to have y'all on it. The game is $8.50 on Humble Bundle. We'll put that in the chat. If you buy the game, look for a server called Hyena Prime. I will put it in the chat as well. And, it's just a bunch of derps like me shooting some zombies, running around, getting beat up by zombies a whole lot. Horror games, like Kurgosh, 100% understand it. Like, horror games is definitely not what a lot of people need right now. Like you wonder why Animal Crossing is doing so well these days. I don't, because that is really a way to get some good dopamine, and it's a very soothing, comforting activity. So if you don't like horror games, totes cool. If you do like zombie shooting games, feel free to come join us on the Hyena Prime Night Country server. Oh, the password. You guys need the password. Password is Leisler. I will put that in chat. It's LEISLER.
We'll put that into our Discord and on our website, maybe? We'll have it posted.
Not on the website. I don't know
We're
if that's
phasing the website out. That's early aughts.
Do we have a link to the Discord somewhere?
I do. We're never it's still shiny, brand new, has plastic wrap on it.
I meant the Feats and Fables Discord.
It's still brand shiny new, has plastic wrap on it.
We will let you all know when it is out of the packaging.
Yeah, I think we have one.
We do.
Yes. But there's hardly no one in it. I will put a invite in chat though.
We're in it.
Fair enough.
Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody.
Specifically, thanks to our newest subscribers, Weezon713 and Kurgosh.
Yes!
For 4 months.
Woo!
We do appreciate it.
Guys, we've been doing this for 4 months now. Can y'all believe it?
Yep, I can. We haven't missed Monday.
It's a free show. It's a free show, everybody.
Tell your friends.
Please tell your friends. Oh God, we need more viewers.
Show up, it's fine.
We live on ratings.
We really don't.
Please join us next week when we'll come back to our regularly scheduled, probably murdering of Malagar, potentially.
He had a good run.
Listen, I'm just gonna go through characters every third session. It's gonna be great.
Nice. Was on.
Till you land on one.
Yeah.
I think the plan is Andrew's going to go through each of the season 1 characters. So next he's going to do Corbin, and then he's going to do Coffer. It's going to be great.
And
right?
He's going to hope that every new character will be the character that brings him home.
Oh,
Nice.
That's the real meta. I'm just going to be playing. It's going to be Quantum Leap up in here.
See, this is what happens, chat. I have this nice story and it's set up, and then we're going to play Quantum Leap. I'm like, I did not sign up to run Quantum Leap. If you asked me to run Quantum Leap, I would have run Quantum Leap.
Who's going to be the Dean Stockwell character with Ziggy?
Roz definitely going to be the Stockwell character. I mean, come on.
I think that's a good point I need to head out, guys.
Follow us on the social medias.
All right. Night, y'all. Love you, chat.
Night.
Follow us.
To
Good adventure!